Hey man, this one's gonna be uncomfortable. Not because it's cruel, not because it's pessimistic, but because it shines a harsh light on something we're all told to ignore. Female desire isn't what we've been taught to believe. It's not clean, it's not soft, and it's definitely not fair. Female desire isn't shaped by virtue or morality. It's shaped by biology, status, emotion, and above all, power dynamics. And the most unsettling part? The more you understand it, the more you realize how far the lie goes. The lie that says, just be kind, just be stable, just be honest, and love will follow. That might get you a thank you. It won't get you desire. That's the truth most men choke on until it breaks them. But you don't have to stay broken. That's exactly why I wrote Letting Go, to help men finally stop clinging to illusions that never served them in the first place. If you're ready to see things clearly and finally free yourself, the link's in the pinned comment. The truth hurts, but it also heals. Coming back to our topic, desire isn't a choice, it's a reaction. And for women, it's often a reaction to things that seem illogical to the average man. Men try to win a woman's heart by giving more time, more validation, more support. But female desire doesn't get triggered by effort alone. It gets triggered by emotional contrast, by uncertainty, by intensity. She craves not just comfort, but experience. That's why she'll ghost the guy who worships her and chase the man who makes her feel just a little unsure. That tension, the unknown, it lights up a part of her brain that logic can't touch. And you trying to reason with it? That's like trying to swim through fire. She says she wants a good guy, and she probably believes it. But what she feels drawn to is often something very different. It's the man who doesn't explain himself. The one who walks away when disrespected. The one whose silence says more than your constant affection. You show up with flowers and she thanks you. He shows up with emotional indifference and she fantasizes about him. Why? Because female desire isn't fair. It's not about justice, it's about emotional impact. And that impact doesn't come from being the guy who's always there. It comes from being the guy she wonders about when you're not. The unsettling truth is this. What arouses her isn't kindness, it's masculine polarity. The ability to dominate your environment, to remain unmoved, to be unaffected by her emotional swings. She'll never say it out loud, but the guy who ignores her when she throws a tantrum turns her on more than the guy who tries to soothe her. Not because she wants chaos, but because it shows strength, it shows power. And power, whether they admit it or not, is the ultimate aphrodisiac. The more power you give away to keep her, the less desire she feels to stay. What's worse is that she may not even know she's doing it. Female desire is often subconscious. She's not calculating, she's responding, and that response can flip overnight. One moment you're her king, the next you're invisible. Not because you changed, but because her perception did, and perception in her world is tied to emotion. That's why she'll rewrite history, why she'll say, it was always wrong, even after months of passion. Because in her emotional timeline, the moment she stops feeling you, the story gets edited, and you're left asking questions she'll never answer truthfully because she doesn't even know the answer herself. You want to know what keeps a woman obsessed? Not security, psychological elevation. The sense that you could have anyone, but you chose her. The idea that you're desirable to others, yet remain composed and focused. That triggers something ancient in her wiring. Women evolved to desire men who could conquer the environment, not just survive in it. That's why women lust after status, dominance, and quiet confidence. And that's why showing desperation, neediness, or over-attachment doesn't just kill attraction, it repels her, because in her instinctive mind, that's the same as weakness. And weakness, no matter how kind, is never sexy. The movies lied to you. The love songs lied to you. They made you think that the guy who tries harder wins the girl. But in real life, the guy who needs her the least is the one who gets under her skin. Because desire comes from space, not closeness. From unpredictability, not routine. You being nice doesn't make her wet. You being rare does. The moment she knows exactly where she stands with you is the moment her mind starts to drift. And when her mind drifts, so does her body. That's why the most desired men don't chase, they attract. Let's be clear, this doesn't mean you become toxic, manipulative, or cold. It means you stop giving your power away. You stop performing for her approval. You stop treating her as a prize that validates your worth. Because here's the raw truth. If she senses that you need her more than she desires you, the balance is lost. And once the balance is lost, so is the respect. She may stay physically, but mentally, she's already packing her bags. And every attempt you make to win her back with more affection only proves her point further, that you've forgotten how to be a man who leads. The reason this truth is so unsettling is because it strips away the romantic illusion. It reveals that what makes her want you isn't always what makes you feel loved. And that's painful, because men want connection, we want intimacy, we want to be appreciated for our loyalty, our effort, our protection. But those things, while necessary for love, don't always fuel desire. That's why so many women love their partners and still fantasize about someone else. Because the brain and the body are speaking two different languages, and most men never learn how to speak to both. So what do you do with all this? Do you become bitter? No. Do you give up on women? Not even close. You level up. You become the man who triggers both her love and her lust. Not by sacrificing who you are, but by amplifying it. By standing firm, by leading, by maintaining the mystery. You stop apologizing for your standards. You stop explaining your masculine nature, and you start living like your life is the prize, because it is. She'll either be drawn to your gravity or drift away, looking for sparks that burn out just as fast. Either way, you're not chasing, you're building. Female desire isn't linear, it spirals. It loops back and forth through emotions, perception, chemistry, and subconscious impressions. That's why one day she craves your presence, and the next day your presence feels suffocating. You didn't change, her desire cycle did. And most men misinterpret that shift as something they did wrong. So they overcorrect, they try harder, they open up more, they give and give and give until there's nothing left of the man she first desired. And ironically, it's that version, the one with boundaries, mystery, and masculine detachment, that drew her in to begin with. When a woman feels desire, it's not rational, it's instinctive. It's not about logic or reason, it's about how you make her feel. And often, what makes her feel desire is the subtle emotional threat of losing you. That doesn't mean you manipulate her with games, it means you live a life where you could walk away, where your self-respect is louder than your need for validation. That threat of loss activates a primal chase instinct in her. If she knows she's already got you, completely and unconditionally, her brain stops chasing, her attraction begins to decay, and no amount of kindness will resurrect it. You've probably seen it before. The woman who complains about her toxic ex for hours, yet still answers his texts at midnight. Meanwhile, the good guy who's consistent, stable, and loving, she says he's boring. Why? Because in the realm of desire, stability is only attractive when it's paired with strength. That means you don't just show up. You show up as a man who commands space, who sets boundaries, who isn't afraid to walk alone. When your stability becomes servitude, you lose your edge. And without that edge, desire dies a slow and silent death. The truth most men never want to hear is that female desire is drawn to tension. Not drama, but tension. The tension of, I want him, but I don't fully have him. The tension of, he's kind, but he's not a pushover. The tension of, he's present, but not dependent. That tension is what keeps her emotionally engaged. Remove it, and she disengages. That's why overly romantic gestures too soon backfire. It kills the spark of mystery. It tells her, I'm already yours, before she's earned it. And when something comes too easily, it rarely feels valuable. There's a reason she fantasizes about forbidden situations. The teacher, the stranger, the emotionally unavailable guy. It's not because she's evil, it's because desire lives in possibility, not in predictability. The unknown stimulates her imagination. It lets her project her ideal man onto a blank canvas. But when you show up too clearly, too soon, too needy, there's no room left for projection. She sees you completely. And if she hasn't fully attached yet, that clarity kills the fantasy. The tragedy? Most good men reveal themselves before she's ready to receive them. Female desire is not evil, but it is dangerous, especially to men who haven't mastered themselves, because desire will never ask you to stay grounded. It will pull you into emotional games, into validation loops, into insecurity. And if you don't have the frame to hold your ground, you'll start contorting yourself into shapes that please her temporarily while destroying your identity slowly. That's why you must be rooted before you pursue her. Not rooted in her emotions, but in your values, in your purpose. Because if your sense of worth is tied to her attention, you're already lost. When she says, just be yourself, what she really means is be the version of yourself that triggers my desire. She won't say it that way. She might not even realize it, but she's not attracted to your full emotional availability. She's attracted to the version of you that is in control of his emotions, the you that doesn't fold under pressure, the you that listens but doesn't explain, that loves but never needs. And most men never develop this version of themselves because they're too busy performing instead of becoming, and that's why they suffer. You need to understand, female desire does not run parallel to fairness. The man who gives her the world might be the one she leaves. The man who barely gives her time might be the one she craves. It's not about what's deserved, it's about what stimulates, and that's hard for men to accept, especially those raised to believe that love is earned through sacrifice. But in reality, desire isn't earned, it's triggered. It's activated by your presence, your confidence, your unpredictability, your leadership. And if you lack those things, no amount of devotion will substitute for them. Here's what they don't want you to realize. Once you understand female desire, you stop being manipulated by it. You stop chasing after signals that mean nothing. You stop interpreting temporary attraction as permanent love. You start seeing things as they are, and that's when your power returns. Because when you realize you're the one setting the emotional frame, everything changes. Her games no longer trigger you. Her withdrawal no longer scares you. Her compliments no longer inflate your ego. You become unshakable, and that's when you become irresistible. So what do you do now? You build. Not for her, but for you. You develop the stoic calm that draws her curiosity. You sharpen your mission until your life demands respect. You live in such a way that she has to qualify to be part of it. Not because you're arrogant, but because you finally understand your worth. You don't bend to her emotions, you hold space for them. You don't chase her fantasy, you embody your own truth. And when you do that, she doesn't just desire you, she respects you. And when a woman respects you, that's when obsession begins. Now let's talk about the ultimate paradox of female desire. She wants a man who makes her feel, but not one who's easily moved himself. You're expected to give her butterflies, make her heart race, give her stories to tell her friends, but do it all without becoming emotionally erratic yourself. The moment you become too reactive, too emotional, too invested, the dynamic shifts. She no longer sees you as a mountain, but a mirror. And that mirror starts reflecting back her own chaos, her own insecurities. She doesn't want to see that, so she backs away, not because you stop trying, but because you start tracing. And that chase kills polarity. You'll hear women say things like, he just had this energy, or there was something about him, that something. It's not looks, it's not money, it's not even status, though all those things help. It's his energetic detachment. It's the vibe of a man who's not performing, a man who's centered, calm, unfazed. That calmness is magnetic, because in a world where every man is trying to impress her, trying to win her, trying to be what she wants, a man who doesn't need to do any of that stands out. He becomes a mystery. And women don't fall for facts, they fall for mystery. And mystery, my brother, is born from purpose. When a man is living fully in his lane, when his time is scarce because his mission matters more than her mood, that's when she starts chasing. Not because you're ignoring her, but because your attention is valuable. Most men flood her with availability. They text all day, call every night, make her the center of their lives before she's even earned it. And in doing so, they rob her of the one thing that makes desire grow: the unknown. Let her wonder, let her sit in that silence, let her imagination do the heavy lifting. You don't have to be rich to trigger desire. You don't have to be famous, or perfect, or even tall. What you need is emotional control. That's the currency of the masculine. The man who can remain calm while everyone else is spiraling. The man who doesn't fold under feminine pressure. The man who can say no with his chest and mean it. That energy of self-possession, of stoic presence, it's rare. And because it's rare, it's valuable. And because it's valuable, it's desired. And that desire, it doesn't fade. because it's rooted in who you are, not in what you give. But here's where it gets dangerous. When you confuse desire with validation. The moment you need her response to feel like a man is the moment she feels like the leader. And when she becomes the emotional leader, she starts testing. She creates drama, she pulls away, she pushes your buttons. Not because she wants to leave, but because she wants to feel something. She wants to feel your gravity. And if you break, if you start explaining yourself, apologizing, overcompensating, she knows you're not solid, she knows you're pretending, and once she sees the act, she loses the feeling. Fast. Do you want to know the kind of man who truly captures a woman's soul? It's not the loudest man, it's not the most dominant on the surface, it's the most composed, the man who can smile while walking away, the man who can care and still leave when disrespected, the man who doesn't use his strength to control her, but to control himself. That man is a mirror she respects. Because deep down, she wants someone stronger than her emotions, someone who doesn't bend when she breaks, someone who remains rooted when the storm hits. That's the man she fears losing, and the one she clings to. Female desire has layers. Surface level desire might be triggered by aesthetics, by charm, by chemistry, but deep, obsessive desire, that's triggered by your emotional posture. It's not how tall you are, it's how tall you stand in your mind. It's not how much money you have, it's how much you value your time. It's not how perfect your life looks, it's how unshaken you remain when hers gets messy. She tests not to punish you, but to measure you, to see if you're truly the man your energy claims you are. And if you pass, she'll submit. Not out of weakness, but out of deep, cellular trust. Every woman carries an unspoken desire to be led by a man who cannot be moved by her emotions. She doesn't want someone cold, she wants someone solid. That's why she'll say she wants communication, but then get turned off by the guy who explains everything. She wants presence, not paragraphs. She wants certainty, not clarification. She wants a man whose eyes say, "I got this," without needing to say anything. And that kind of man only exists when he's spent years becoming focused, becoming grounded, becoming so full in himself that no woman's confusion can rattle his clarity. Here's the dark truth. Most men will never access this level of power because they're too afraid to lose her, and that fear bleeds into everything they do. It makes them agree when they should say no. It makes them explain when they should remain silent. It makes them plead when they should be walking away. And every time they do that, her desire fades. Not because she's cruel, but because her biology knows this man cannot lead me. And if he cannot lead me, he cannot hold me. And if he cannot hold me, I will not desire him. But you're different, because now you know, you've seen behind the curtain, you've tasted the truth. And that truth, while unsettling, is liberating. You don't have to become something you're not. You just have to stop being the version of yourself that chases approval. Let her feel your absence when she crosses a line. Let her work for your attention when she's been taking it for granted. Let her feel the tension of your standards. That's not manipulation. That's masculine leadership. And it doesn't just create desire, it commands respect. And when you have both, you're unstoppable. Desire, at its core, is not about comfort, it's about contrast. The contrast between who you are and what the world is. The contrast between what she knows and what she feels around you. If you blend in, if you're predictable, if your energy mirrors everyone else's, there's no spark. But if you stand out, not by trying, but simply by being unapologetically grounded in your essence, that's where the obsession begins. Not because you played a role, but because your presence disrupted her narrative. You weren't just another chapter, you were the plot twist. And the man who understands this doesn't panic when desire fluctuates. He doesn't chase her when she pulls away. He doesn't beg, explain, or overinvest. He observes. He leads. He lets her emotional storms swirl around his unshakable calm. And what does that do? It pulls her back. It reignites her respect. It reminds her that real men don't need constant affirmation to know their value. They already know. That kind of calm is terrifying to women who are used to control. And yet, it's the only thing that ever really captures them. Remember, she'll never tell you this. She'll say she wants a nice guy. She'll say she wants honesty, availability, openness. But the man who actually shows up with all of that, before she's earned it, is rarely the one who gets her heart. Why? because it feels like he's already surrendered. There's no fire in that, no challenge, no mountain to climb. She wants to feel like she's gaining access to a world, not like she's being handed the keys without effort. So every time you lower your standards to gain her interest, you're actually pushing her away. The desire she feels for you is deeply tied to the boundaries you hold. And the moment you compromise those boundaries to please her, she loses the very thing that made you attractive. It's brutal, but it's true. She desires the man who leads, not the one who follows her moods. She desires the man who protects his peace, not the one who gives it away for temporary validation. She might test those boundaries, she might resent them at first, but over time, they become the foundation of her trust. And without trust, there is no lasting desire. You are not here to be liked by everyone. You are here to be respected by the right ones. When you carry yourself like a man who doesn't need anyone's approval to breathe, she feels it. She may not always like it, but she feels it. And that feeling, it activates her deeper wiring. The part that isn't politically correct. The part that isn't filtered by her social media persona. The part that says, this man could lead me even when I'm emotional, even when I'm confused, even when I push him. That's not just attraction. That's devotion, the kind that doesn't fade overnight. Most men never realize this because they're too focused on performance, on lines, on techniques, on playing the perfect boyfriend, but none of that lasts. What lasts is presence. What lasts is how she feels in your energy when things aren't going her way. If you crumble, she questions. If you stand firm, she submits. Emotionally, not because she has to, but because her desire leads her there. And the difference between a man who commands respect and one who begs for love, it's how he handles moments of pressure. That's when the truth shows. You must become the man who's never surprised by her tests. Not because you expect the worst, but because you understand how female desire operates. You know that tests are invitations. Invitations to lead, to stay calm, to maintain frame. And if you flinch, you fail. But if you lean in, if you breathe, observe, and remain unshaken, she'll feel something few women ever feel in today's dating world. Safe. Safe not because you're soft, but because you're solid. That safety creates a space where her deepest desire can awaken, and that's when her mask starts to fall. The truth is, most women don't even know why they desire who they desire. They'll tell themselves it's because he's hot, successful, charming, but often it's much deeper. It's the emotional weight of the man, his stillness, his unpredictability, his unwillingness to be controlled. That energy rewires her nervous system. It makes her feel feminine, not by force, but by polarity. And in that polarity, her obsession grows. Not over what he gives her, but over what he triggers inside her. The feeling of being around a man who cannot be moved. So when she says, I don't know what it is about you, that's when you know you're doing it right. Because the desire she feels for you isn't logical, it's biological. It's spiritual, it's primal. And that type of desire doesn't fade with time, it deepens. But only if you remain grounded, only if you continue leading, only if you never let her emotional chaos dictate your reality. The moment you do, you become like every other man she's already forgotten. But when you stand strong, you become unforgettable. Brother, the unsettling truth about female desire isn't something to be feared, it's something to be respected. It's not about controlling her, it's about controlling yourself, your energy, your standards, your purpose. When you lead yourself, you automatically lead the dynamic. And in that leadership, you create the very tension that draws her in, keeps her loyal, and makes her crave you even when you're silent. That's not manipulation, that's masculine wisdom. And once you understand it, you stop chasing, because now she follows.